My name is David Gorey. I'm a woodcarver here in the medieval town of Fethard. I have long been inspired by the 4 wooden statues that form part of the heritage of our town. Here I'm starting a hand-carved scale replica of the Lady of Fethard. First step, cutting out on the bandsaw. Here I'm using a variety of different chisels and a mallet to give the piece its main features. There is a long history of wood carving in Ireland. In particular, carvings of wooden religious statues for the church, dating back to pre-medieval times. Carved wood has also been used as decorative and ornate features in many buildings. The piece I'm carving is wood from an old chestnut tree which fell during a storm locally. Carving in wood can be a sustainable approach. Many carvers use wood from storm-damaged and dead trees. Much of the wood for my carving in the past has come from elm. Dutch elm disease killed all elm trees in Ireland and abroad about 30 years ago. The trees died from the roots up, which dried the wood in the process, providing good timber in a sustainable way. Of the 4 statues, the statue of the Lady of Fethard has always been my favourite. The statue was always in the Augustinian Abbey in Fethard when I was growing up. The statue was brought out and displayed during Easter ceremonies. This tradition continued for many years before the statue was loaned to the National Museum in Dublin. I used to marvel at the ability of the carver to capture the fine details. As a self-taught novice carver, I was inspired and motivated to improve my own carving skills. I am sure the original carver would have never imagined that their work could have inspired someone hundreds of years later and helped keep the skill alive. My hope in recreating these statues is twofold. I hope to inspire the next generation of wood carvers. I also hope to keep the story and history of the 4 statues in the minds of the people of Fethard. Once I completed the carving you see, I proceeded to carve replicas of the 3 Trinity statues, which also have their heritage in Fethard. I carved the 3 statues using the same skills and processes as seen in the video so far. The 3 statues, known as the Trinity statues, represent Christ on Calvary, John the Baptist, and God the Father. These are known as the Trinity statues. This 1, 2 and 3, that's 3 for Trinity.
Yeah.
That's Our Lady of Fethard, known as Our Lady of Fethard. These are copies that I've made.
Oh.
And the original statues were made back before St. Patrick came to Ireland.
Yes.
Shortly after St. Patrick came to Ireland, they were probably made then. And they were in the churches below in where is now the Trinity Church down there by the square.
Yeah.
And when Cromwell came to Ireland, 100 years ago now, he was going to burn all the statues. So what some of the people of Fethard did is they hid the statues, they buried them in the ground.
Now these statues now are that size. The original statues are that size. And they were buried for nearly 200 years. So in the 1850s, they were found when they were building the convent. And statues were found and they were still in good condition. Now bits were missing, like I'm saying, this was actually John the Baptist. All this side of him was missing, the staff was missing, and all his hand here was missing. And there was bits at the side of this of the Pope. The Pope at the time was depicted as God the Father as well as the Pope.
Yeah.
But God the Son at Calvary was pretty much well intact.
Yeah.
But they were brought into the new church. The new church, the parish church below here.
Yeah.
That was actually only as it been built about 20 or 25 years before that, or finished. And they were brought in and left there for a while. But I think they might have thought they were a bit dirty, from being buried in the ground.
Yeah.
So what they did was they put them back into the store.
Yeah.
And they were left there for another 100 years.
Oh.
So 1950, they were rediscovered and brought up to the museum in Dublin.
Oh.
So they're now above in Dublin. But I made these statues and I hope maybe someday that they might either get enough of interest that people might say, well, can they bring the statues back to Fethard?
Yeah.
And Our Lady of Fethard, when I was young, that was brought out for the Easter ceremonies. Then it was put back safely, but I reckon that was hidden below in the Abbey Church around the same time that these were buried.
Wow.
And that one now, with that the prior at the time in the early 90s gave that to the museum, so that's above the museum. Now that statue is not as big as these ones. That statue is only about that height.
Oh.
These now are as tall, as big as me.
Whoa.
So there's a lot of history, and I said a lot of people have said that don't know about the history of it. So it would be great if they could bring it back to the museum, even for a while.
Yeah.
You know that museum we have above the Horse Museum?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be great if we got it back there? Would you love to see it?
On completion of the statues, the next step was to display them publicly. I designed them to fit into 4 niches purposely built in the entrance wall of my studio on the main street. I hope their presence piques the curiosity of those that see them, and they explore and investigate their heritage further. As you can see, work has already begun passing on wood carving skills to Dara and Ava.